Okay, good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are doing well. I know you all are very excited about today's guest because there has been a lot of debate and queries that we had about the name. You have tried to explore it on social media. So we have with us Anuradha Parekh, co-founder of the Better India and the Better Home. She comes from a diverse academic and professional background. We have shared a lot about her, and you have been very excited. But let us know more about her from herself. I want you all to join me in welcoming Miss Anuradha Parekh for today's session. Without taking much time, I would pass on directly to Anuradha to take over, and please help us in knowing your journey, this wonderful journey of where you have finally reached to a point where you created such a big platform, and we have all researched about you, try to understand where all you learned these things about your academics and well, but I think it is better to understand the story from the storyteller itself. So I welcome you on behalf of Kashmir Education Initiative with all the scholars. We have these participants in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. We call them scholars. And scholars with me, please welcome Anuradha ma'am for today. And let us hear her out, her journey, and then we'll move on to the second phase of today's session. Over to you, Anuradha.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Omar. And it's a real pleasure for me to be here among all of these amazing scholars from Kashmir. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to share my time with you all and tell you a little more about what we do at the Better India, how I got into this in the first place, and how we would love to have everybody here be a part of it as well. So, um, so okay, so I guess a good place to start might be from the beginning. So, to give you a little bit of an overview of where we started, ये शुरुआत कहाँ से हुई हमारी journey. This is actually the baby of my husband and I. Both of us, we started this about in about 2008. The way it started was essentially, one fine day, a conversation over tea where we felt that, there was just too much negativity in the Indian media. And this was, I mean, we were both big consumers of news. हम लोग बहुत पढ़ते थे news क्या छप रहा है, and we were very interested in knowing about current affairs and all of that stuff. But most of the news in Indian media was completely skewed towards sensationalizing and heavily negative coverage, right? So हर एक scam के बारे में, scandal के बारे में, corruption, murders, rapes, everything you will come to know in great detail, right? But anybody doing anything good was either not reported at all or reported in some page 12 or 13 or something like that, one chota sa paragraph over there about somebody having done something. So this is where we felt that there was no balance in the entire news, the media segment in India, where there was so much talk around issues but no talk around the solutions, right? And there were so many people, I'm sure aap logon ko bhi, you all must have come across a lot of such people. We definitely had in our own lives. We knew a lot of people who were working, doing some great work in different sectors. And even both of us were involved with different NGOs. We were trying to help out different people, whether it was tribals, whether it was, underprivileged children. So we used to volunteer our time and, whatever that we could. And we felt that there was a need for a voice, for such communities and such initiatives also to be recognized and to be amplified, right? उनका क्या जो काम है वो भी कहीं पे छपना चाहिए, उनके ऊपर भी spotlight आना चाहिए, right? So I think what happens largely is that the politicians and scamsters and everybody who's doing something wrong. All the criminals of the country hog up most of the limelight, apart from Bollywood and cricket and everything else, right? I think 99% of our limelight is being hogged by them. And unfortunately, the good people in our country who are trying to do something, in spite of all the constraints that they have, all the, very little money, or whatever that they're trying to do with their time and money, is just not getting the kind of recognition that it should. So this is the thought back in 2008 when we decided to do something about it. And we decided to launch a digital platform called the Better India. I wouldn't call it a platform back then, it was more of a blog. So it's what started out as a blog where we started covering stories of good initiatives. We both stay in Bangalore, and we started covering these initiatives while going on weekends, or after our work. We both had day jobs. This was after we had just graduated from MBA. And we used to do this, in our own free time, where we used to go out, find the good people to cover, talk to them and cover their stories. So this was how it started very small, maybe one story a week, sort of a thing, where those stories started gaining traction, getting a life of their own, where all these stories that we shared started reaching more and more people, going beyond just our friends and family network. And they started being shared widely by, all these people who read it. They really liked it. They started sharing those stories with more and more people, to the point that, hundreds of people started reading these stories and sharing them and reaching out to us and saying, "Acha, ye story bahut acha laga. How can we contribute, to this cause? या हम कैसे मदद कर सकते हैं, हम कैसे ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं इन लोगों को, हम किस तरह से वॉलंटियर कर सकते हैं, या कहाँ पे डोनेट कर सकते हैं." All so much impact started happening by virtue of telling these stories, right? So that is the power of digital media, I would say, right? Because the internet has made it so easy for all of us to become storytellers. And that was one great insight that we had back then, that it's very onto WordPress or anything and start a blog, right? And the second thing is stopping you from starting your own blog or going, creating your own following on different platforms and all of that, right? So it's just made it's kind of made a level playing field where anybody and everybody, with no matter how much money you have or how much resources you have, as long as you have some sort of an internet connection and even access to just a mobile phone, a smartphone or something like that, right? It's just so easy for everybody to become a digital journalist. Now, I think the more important thing is how do we responsibly use that power, right? We all have been given that power now, and most of the people, if you see, it's used not in very constructive ways. But I think it's really in our hands, and the youth of today to be able to use that power very responsibly and towards a cause that is for the greater good, right? And that is where our journey led us, from starting these small stories that we started putting out once a week, to the kind of impact that we started seeing, right? Starting from, some of my favorite stories from the early days are around this school for the blind, a photography school for the blind. It was more of a club where, the persons with visual disabilities, जिन्हें ठीक से दिखाई नहीं देता है, उनके लिए photography वो किस तरह से सीख सके. That was something that this club came together and started teaching them. And just by putting out such lovely stories, there was, for instance, with this story, we had somebody who reached out to us, one girl who sent us an email after a few days, telling us about how this story changed her life, because all her life she wanted to learn about photography, but everybody said, tum to andhi ho, tum kis tarah se seekh sakti ho, photography is only when you can actually see the subject and click a picture. But she said that after reading the story, she went and joined that club, and now she's able to take pictures and she's able to tell people how she does that, right? So these are small impact that started happening to, even within a few days we also started seeing people reaching out to us and saying, there was a school for deaf girls in Chennai, and there was it was in a shambling condition, सब कुछ दीवारें टूट गई थी, they didn't have much funding. तो हमारी story सुन के there was this group of techies from Bangalore जिन्होंने पढ़ी story, और एक weekend में they just raised some funds and drove down to Chennai and helped that school rebuild their walls. Right, so these are the kind of impact that we started seeing, and this was very early on, right, back in 2010, 2011 itself, when we had a few hundred readers, right, to the website every month. Today, we reach out to about 70 million people every month. That is where we've come in the past 12 years. And you cannot imagine the kind of impact that each story can generate now. Right, it's a snowballing effect. जितना जितने लोग पढ़ रहे हैं उतने लोग, they are reaching out to the people, they are amplifying the work of each of the protagonists that we cover, जिसके बारे में हम लिख रहे हैं, जिस संस्था के बारे में, जिस personality के बारे में, उनको इतनी मदद मिलती है from all over the country and all over the world that it's a massive movement of its own, right? So this is the power of positive journalism or constructive journalism that I want to emphasize, right? I think we are all so overexposed to the mainstream journalism and those shouting voices that we hear on television and all of that, mindless screaming that goes on, that we've lost touch with the kind of impact that can happen when you tell inspiring stories, or when you talk about good work that is happening. The way people can come together and rally together for a cause. I would say one very important insight for us all along this journey, now that it's been 12 years, one very important thread that we have seen throughout is that people want to do good. अंदर से लोगों को अच्छाई है, मतलब लोगों के अंदर इतनी अच्छाई है. It's just that most of the time people don't get an opportunity to channelize that goodness. So if people are looking for ways in which they can contribute, looking for ways in which they can improve things around them, looking for ways in which they can build communities or help out the marginalized, it's just that they don't find the right opportunities, and they keep thinking that it's a very, very big job. मतलब हमसे नहीं होगा, हम तो छोटे आदमी हैं. You need to be a Tata or Ambani to be able to create that sort of an impact, or you need to be in the government or IAS, or you need to, you need a certain status, or you need a certain position, or you need a certain influence, a certain amount of money, whatever it is, right? So all of us sit back and create these kind of constraints on ourselves, these kind of walls, ki only once hum wo par kar payenge, if we reach that sort of a stage in life, then maybe I can do some good, then maybe I can help other people, only then, I will have the means to do something. But that's the exact myth that we wanted to break, and that we've managed to break. That whole mindset, it's essentially just a mindset. If you believe that you can do something good with whatever you have, and we have thousands of stories of people who have proved just that, even the power of one, just एक आदमी या एक औरत कितना change कर सकती है, in not just their own lives, but in lives, impacting thousands of lives around them. And that is the power of one, or that we have seen, right? And these are not people who are at a certain, have a certain wealth or a certain status or position of influence or anything like that, right? these are normal people. They could even be people who are begging on the streets, but they have managed to create an impact in the society around them. Two people who are just regular, they've not even been able to pass exams, but they've still helped other students study, right? Or they reach a certain, whether it's an IAS or DC, and they use that position to be able to create impact, right? But it's really a mindset change, राइट आई थिंक ट्रेडिशनली हम सबको यही सिखाया गया है कि आप अभी काम करो, यू दिस इज द प्राइम ऑफ योर लाइफ वेयर यू लर्न, where you imbibe everything, you study well, and of course you should study well, but then you leave everything, all social work or anything to do with society and community and all of that, to a later stage in life, when you are old or retired, when you have a lot of wealth, when your kids are married, wo sab ho gaya hai, then you think about society, right? That's the exact mindset that we wanted to change, that it's not necessary for anybody to wait for a certain time or place or position to be able to create, to make a difference in anyone else's life. Everybody is able to do that, whether along with their jobs, along with their own constraints, along with whatever few resources that they have. Each one of us can do something, whether it's painting the wall outside your house, or planting a few trees in your locality, or help, or teaching a few underprivileged kids after work or on weekends, right? I mean, there are so many thousands of ways in which people are making a difference and can make a difference. So that's exactly the kind of mindset that we want people to develop, that it's possible for each one of us to be a change maker, right? We feel that change makers are these big people who get the Padma Shri and all of those things, or only those are the few people who do that. That's not true. Or each one of us can be a change maker. All we need to do is look around us and see what difference can we make. So this is a brief overview. If you'd like me to go into any further any particular aspects of what we do of our business, I'm happy to actually tell you a little bit more. In fact, we are, we are at heart an impact platform. So although you might know of the Better India, which is essentially a media, a storytelling platform, which tells stories of change, of initiatives, of innovation, of environment, so many different aspects that we talk about, and a lot of awareness and information. So we're trying to change behavior by telling people about, by inspiring people with stories of other change makers, and by also creating more information and awareness in society, so that people can actually go out and do something with all of that, all of that information. So that's the Better India, where we cover, over 300, 400 stories every month. In addition to that, we also have the Better Home, which is a set of, a range of eco-friendly home cleaners. So this is in addition to what we started doing with, what the impact that we generate through the Better India, which is, in different spheres. Like, we've brought water and electricity to villages, we've funded slum schools, we have built toilets in villages and made them go open defecation free. Like, all of this impact happens at the Better India level. In addition to that, what we're seeing is also the fact that people want to be more sustainable. उनको कुछ करना है environment के लिए. They are becoming more aware, and they want to adopt products, that help them be more sustainable. You don't want to use the kind of detergents that are out there that are leaving all kinds of pollutants into our atmosphere, into our water bodies, which are eventually polluting our groundwater and everything, right? So this is that awareness that's creeping in. And we are also trying to cater to that audience, because a lot of our readers come back to us, on a regular basis and ask us, how do we shift to a more eco-friendly lifestyle? How do we adopt all of this, teaching that you're giving us? So this is our first set of products that we've launched, which is home cleaners, dishwashing liquid, laundry liquid, floor cleaners, toilet cleaners, this whole range of products which help people, which is completely non-toxic and biodegradable and eco-friendly. And we intend to launch more products going forward. So this is the other part of the business. And in addition to that, we do a lot around CSR, good work that is being done by different communities, corporates, all of that. So we take up a lot of impact campaigns as well. We have one that is going on right now, which is called India's COVID Soldiers, which recognizes people who have gone beyond their call of duty and done something during the COVID times to help others, whether they're frontline workers like doctors and nurses and policemen and all sanitation workers, a lot of people who not only came to perform their duties, but who actually did a lot more to help a lot of people, save them from the effects of the pandemic. You heard so much about all the migration that happened. इतने सारे हजारों लोगों को impact हुआ है, livelihoods have been lost. So there are a lot of people who are helping a lot, all of these underprivileged people get back on their feet or help them with medical supplies and different things. So we have an ongoing campaign which recognizes and rewards these COVID soldiers, and a lot of other impact campaigns. Like we have a lake revival campaign, which is reviving lakes in Bangalore, in and around Bangalore, and across the country. So this is what we do all along, throughout the year. And happy to answer any questions that Omar has and go further into details on what you'd like to know about the Better India.
No, thank you so much. I mean, I think this has been a lot of knowledge for me. I have been a regular follower of Better India, honestly saying. I mean, and I was not knowing who is the founder and who has started. I mean, I think, by the end of the day, we are interested in the story. Storyteller becomes a secondary element. I mean, I won't be saying that the hard work that you have put in getting this platform on board. So I have a couple of things. I mean, we do have a lot of questions that will be coming in the course of time from our scholars. एक दो सवाल है, जैसे बहुत बार क्या होता है, जैसे कश्मीर जैसी जगह पे रिलाई करना एक पर्टिकुलर न्यूज़ पे या कहानी पे बहुत ही चैलेंजिंग टास्क बनता है आजकल के टाइम पे, व्हेन यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ सोर्सेज व्हिच आर अनरिलायबल. तो उस दौरान जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अभी के टाइम पे रिसेंट का, आई मीन दिस इज अ न्यूज़ इन कश्मीर दैट समबडी एक्सपोज्ड अ फेक डॉक्टर इन नॉर्थ कश्मीर. तो अब उसमें क्या चीज है, अब वो तो ठीक है, उन्होंने एक्सपोज किया, उनका एक ड्यूटी था ऐसे करना, देन ही वुड हैव कॉल्ड, शुड हैव कॉल्ड पुलिसमैन और समबडी, बट ही वेंट ऑन मॉरल पुलिसिंग करने के चक्कर में ही बिकेम द पुलिस हिमसेल्फ. he tried to defame him in the market, पूरा उसको हाथ पकड़ के घुमाया उस साइड से. तो अभी बहुत डिबेट चल रहा है इसके अराउंड की एथिकल जर्नलिज्म के बारे में, आजकल के. तो मेरा एक तो रिपोर्टिंग को तो मैं खैर अभी आई हैव दिस क्वेश्चन अराउंड वन थिंग. इफ आई आस्क यू कि अभी के टाइम पे स्टोरी को मीनिंगफुल वे में या राइट स्टोरी बोलने का कितना इम्पैक्ट है. मैं हमेशा ये चीज मानता हूँ, देयर इज अ ह्यूज पावर इन टेलिंग अ स्टोरी, बट यू शुड नो दिस आर्ट ऑफ टेलिंग अ स्टोरी. तो जो हमारे स्कॉलर्स है, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू टू जस्ट थ्रो अ बिट ऑफ मोर लाइट ऑन कि हाँ, ये अपनी जगह पे हाउ कैन दे बिकम स्टोरी टेलर्स, और अपनी कम्युनिटीज में या मे बी अपने पेयर ग्रुप्स में या जहाँ पे भी. तो what should be in their mind, how should they begin this, or किसी भी तरह की story, please tell us more about it.
Sure, my pleasure. तो आपकी बात एकदम सही है कि कश्मीर से जो stories, मतलब we ourselves struggle to get stories from Kashmir, right? And it's such a pity because इतने सारे you have such amazing talent there. There are so many such talented students who are even on this call, right? I'm sure we should be able to do a better job of telling the stories from Kashmir and telling the whole country, and why not the country alone, the whole world, about the great work that is happening in Kashmir, especially given all of the conflict that you see all around you. There's no doubt that there must be so much good work happening in the state to be able to function even remotely, right? Even remotely the way you are. Even, for instance, Omar's work itself is so inspiring. So there are so many change makers out there. There are so many people who are who are helping others, right, get through a lot of difficulties. And since it's an especially difficult time for people there must be an equally large number of initiatives, organization, and people who are doing some amazing work. So I think for the students here, and in general for responsible citizens, right, I think the most important thing is to keep your eyes and ears open, right, and actively scout for such stories, right. I mean the point is that news and stories are all around us, right. We only need to look and listen harder, right. तो पहली चीज जो है आपको समझना है कि कौन सी स्टोरी आपको you think is worth telling. So you have to be a judge of what you're going to say, because I think the first thing is to understand what impact your story will have. For us at the Better India, for instance, it's very important we ask ourselves a few fundamental questions, right? And the most important out of that is, what is the impact of this story? Who is your target audience, and what do you want to achieve with this story? अब उसमें अगर आप कुछ अचीव नहीं कर रहे हैं, if you're just talking about रिया चक्रवर्ती getting arrested, or इसके ऊपर क्या चलने वाला है next, what is happening in that whole scene, how are you adding value to your audience, right? आपका you have told a story, that's great, आपका time गया, you have done something, you probably feel happy कि you have done, you have written 500 words and you've done something. But at the end of the day, who's gaining out of it, and what are they gaining out of it? What have you achieved? Have you added any new information in this world? Will anybody be able to take anything from this and do something with it, right? आपके words, आपके जो शब्द हैं, are they making any difference in this world, or are they worthless? I think that's the most important decision any storyteller or any journalist has to first ask themselves this question, right? So yes, you can look around you, you can find stories. Now, when you tell a story, or when you decide to write a story, you first ask yourself कि ये story, who is the intended audience, कौन पढ़ने वाला है, और उसके ऊपर क्या effect होने वाला है. Are they going to get angry? Are they going to get frustrated? Are they going to feel inspired? Are they going to learn something and be able to adopt it? Are they going to feel happy that somebody is doing something and probably want to join them, or want to help them in some way, volunteer or something? So let's really create that narrative in our mind first, So I think for us at the Better India, we were passionate about bringing change makers and everyday heroes to the forefront, right? And inspiring action among communities. So once we had clarity on that, it was much easier to identify these stories. So I would urge everybody in this room also, and in this community, to also think along those lines, right? So once you identify what you want to write about, it's simple to find it. Get onto the internet, talk to your friends and family, identify communities that build conversation around these topics, talk to institutions that are connected to these topics. So we live in an age of information and networking. So it's easier than ever now to obtain that information, right? Just look around you, just go out, go on the internet, go onto social media. There is so much happening there, so much information on Twitter and everything. Twitter mostly is a very, very toxic medium, right? So you have to be very careful about what you're going out there and finding. You'll find a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, but you have to be very focused around what you're there for. And there you can really find some gems as well, right? So go out and find these kind of people that you can help out, or use these medium for the kind of good that you can create in this world. Then filter out and fact check these stories very, very thoroughly. Okay, so please make sure that you're not adding to any of the fake news that is already out there. It is super important, and it's really the premium responsibility of all of us as citizens to make sure that we don't add any more fake news to this to this world and to the conversations out there. It is very important to be 100% confident about the truth in everything you're putting out. Right? Verify the story with all the people involved, speak personally to everybody and every organization you're writing about, and understand the topic deeply before talking about it. Okay, do thorough research from verified sources before you write anything. So, fact checking, filtering out what you want to write about. Fact checking and research are three things you should not shy away from. I think it's the primary responsible of every citizen out there, and we are all responsible citizens, so we should take this very, very seriously. Right? So these are a few of the points that I would like to emphasize, Omar, around this. I mean, in fact, I can tell you about a story that we had covered on the Better India, which was around this person who was an employee of Jammu and Kashmir government's social welfare department. His name was Mr. Ranjan Joshi. I don't know if any of you have read this story. We had also covered it on the Better India. But he came across, he goes around, he visits almost 60 to 70 villages every month as part of his work. And he came across this person, this family actually, which was slowly starving in this small village. The 78-year-old person, his 68-year-old wife, their daughter-in-law, and two grandchildren, they were in such abject poverty that they were just starving to death. And he was just so shaken by this. He took to he started talking to his friends and all of that about this. How can they help out this family? He was really touched and wanted to do something about it. And his friend suggested that he put up a post on social media. So he did that. He used Facebook. He took a small clipping, 25-second clip of this family, of this grandfather, and put it up on Facebook. And the post went so viral that within 4 days, they managed to collect 17 lakhs for that family. So that is the power of social media, right? And that's the power of storytelling. If done right and for the right intentions, you can really, really do a lot of good work. And that's something that cannot be, that's something that we should all keep in mind when we're trying to find stories, when we're trying to tell, this side of Kashmir. Let's be very, very responsible about what we're putting out.
Wonderful. So, I have one thing before I move on to another question. One important thing is, while I was working on ground, a lot of time people will come and say encouraging words. So, God bless you, you're doing great. And then when you start reading out and during school times, what used to happen is बहुत बार जो हमारे teachers थे, उनको अगर कोई topic समझाना होता था, वो किसी फॉरेनर की, किसी बड़े साइंटिस्ट की जो मान लीजिए BC टाइम में थे या हमसे 100 साल पहले थे, Thomas Alva Edison, I'm just not taking the right name, but Einstein for that matter. मतलब मैं बहुत बार जब मैंने स्टोरीज खुद पढ़नी सीखी, and I'm telling you very honestly, like it helped me in being more grounded and humble in life. Why? Because किसी point पे I used to feel okay, I'm just doing maybe great, but the reality was there were so many out there who were doing great, and I was not even near to them in any case. So I think in that context is when one is like telling a story is one thing. The other thing is reading a story and listening to a story. It is for your own growth. And at the same time, I usually prefer, telling these stories to educationists, to teachers, so that they can, in next, topics, whatever they are going to teach them in future, they can keep these stories as an example so that people resonate with them. Now my question comes to a point where, a lot of youth that I have been working, these scholars that I have been doing a whole lot of workshops, they would come up with a lot of skill set, and some of them come with like, who are good at, bol chal mein, some of them are good at writing. तो बहुत बार क्या हुआ कि उसमें से कई लोग आए कि कई बच्चे आए कि हम लिखना चाहते हैं, पोइट्री हो या कोई कहानी हो, बट हमें एडिटर वहाँ पे अप्रूव ही नहीं करता है उस स्टोरी को। क्यों? क्योंकि वहाँ पे ग्रामेटिकल एरर होता है, वहाँ पे शायद अच्छे तरीके से फ्लो नहीं की जाती है। सो मेरा ये एक सवाल जो जो इनके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, स्कॉलर्स के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जानना चाहता हूँ कि इज देयर सेक्शन जो बच्चों के लिए है, और एक बच्चों के लिए होना ठीक है, लाइक फॉर दैट मैटर, यू नो व्हाट इज द डिस्काउंट फॉर देयर स्टोरी, मतलब आप उनकी स्टोरी में कौन सी जगह पे छूट दे सकते हैं कि लाइक ओके चलो ग्रामेटिकल मिस्टेक माने हैं, अच्छी वोकैबुलरी नहीं, वील मेक इट बेटर बट दिस इज अ गुड स्टोरी, हाउ हाउ, तो ताकि एक एनकरेजमेंट मिलती जाए वो और कहानी लिखी। सो आई वुड रियली वांट टू नो मोर उस तरीके की।
Right. So I think first of all, मतलब स्टोरी को आइडेंटिफाई करना सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है, यू नो, कौन किस मतलब स्टोरी, कौन सी स्टोरी अच्छी है, यूनिक है, कुछ इस तरह की स्टोरी नहीं कही गई है, या इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू टेल दिस स्टोरी, राइट? आप पहले यू नो अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिस और इवेल्युएटिंग दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कि ये स्टोरी हम क्यों बोल रहे हैं, और you know should it be told or not. I think the second part is, I think जब story हम बता रहे हैं, then I think getting some fundamentals right, na? I think that is definitely important for us to increase our chances of being accepted in different places, right? Some places will be okay with, you know, कि हाँ story अच्छी है, okay, we have a lot of great editors, they will help, you know, put other things in place, grammar नहीं है, spellings ठीक नहीं है, जो भी है, right? So I think it should be okay. But there are a lot of places which might not accept it, or which might not take it seriously if you know you don't build those skill sets, right? So or they might not have the bandwidth to do that. So I think matlab thoda basic you know grammar, spelling, all these things are skills are, I think, important for all of us to build, to be accepted in more places, to be taken more seriously, and all of that. In addition to that, I think some basic skill sets, what I would say life skills, right? Like being able to take decent photographs, being able to take you know decent videos, just using our mobile phones now that we have everything, all this technology at our fingertips. Being able to at least tell a good story using multimedia, right? Not just words, but also using photographs, using videos. And I think the most important thing is your discretion. मतलब you know एक तरह से समझ की क्या important है और क्या इतना important नहीं है. That sort of differentiation, I think, is very important for you to develop as a skill. The other thing is also asking the right questions, right? If you're taking a video, it'll have more impact if you're able to get the right kind of answers from the protagonist, right? आप किस तरह के सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, आपको किस तरह के जवाब मिल रहे हैं, आप किस तरह से स्टोरी का फ्लो यू नो ले जा रहे हैं, किस डायरेक्शन में ले जा रहे हैं, और कितना दिलचस्प बना रहे हैं स्टोरी को. आई थिंक दैट्स आल्सो इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट, राइट? सो आई थिंक it's not you know necessary, you've not lost out if you don't have any other, if you're not able to tell a story very grammatically correct. You know, English might not be the most comfortable language for you, right? But it's not all lost if you can't do that. There are so many other ways. Mobile journalism से आप photographs लीजिए, videos लीजिए, और फिर थोड़ा बहुत उसमें अपना you know story डालिए, question answer डालिए. You know, there's so much more you can do than just tell stories in words.
वंडरफुल. सो जो मैं थोड़ा सा आपको ये भी बताना चाहिए, जो हमारे स्कॉलर्स हैं कश्मीर के 10 डिस्ट्रिक्ट से है फैले हुए. और सबसे अच्छी चीज़ ये भी है कि मैं मतलब जब हम वर्कशॉप करने जाते हैं अलग अलग जगहों पे, हम जब आसपास थोड़ा ऑब्जर्वेशन में आते हैं तो बहुत सारी कहानियां हैं जो बोली नहीं गई है, जो सुनाई नहीं गई है. तो जैसे आपने कुछ चीज़ें बोली कि लाइक बिगनिंग सेशन में कि सुनना है, कीनली चीजें ऑब्जर्व करनी है आसपास अपने सराउंडिंग्स में। तो मैं एक मेरा दो पहला मैं ये सवाल जानना चाहूंगा कि पूछना चाहूंगा कि जो कश्मीर से आपने बहुत सारी स्टोरीज बेटर इंडिया ने की है, अभी भी आपने एक स्टोरी का जिक्र किया अभी, बट मुझे पता है बहुत सारी स्टोरीज के, बट एक ऐसी कोई स्टोरी जो आपके लिए भी एक इंस्पायरिंग स्टोरी बनी जो कश्मीर से आई, जैसे आपने बोला कि लाइक पावर ऑफ पॉजिटिव जर्नलिज्म से कश्मीर में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट डोमिनेट करता है, लाइक बट मैं ये मान के चलता हूँ कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एक कवच है। आप वॉलनट को अगर आप देखेंगे जो पेड़ से उतरता है तो एक उसके ऊपर एक कवरिंग होती है, बट मैं वही मानता हूँ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कवर है, बट अगर आप खोलें उसके अंदर तो ह्यूमन बींग्स ही है, उनकी नॉर्मल लाइफ की कहानियां ही है, उनको सुनाने से 10 और लोगों को राह मिलती है जिंदगी में। तो एक ऐसी कहानी जिसने आपको इंस्पायर किया है जो आपके लिए बहुत ही मूविंग रही कश्मीर से, ताकि सबको एक आइडिया आ जाए उस कहानी के बारे में।
वैसे तो बहुत सारी, जैसे आपने कहा उमर, बहुत सारी स्टोरीज हमारे लिए बहुत मायने रखती है और बहुत इंस्पायरिंग है। आई थिंक एक स्टोरी जो हमारे दिल के पास है इज अबाउट बशीर, हु इज Kashmir's first woman wheelchair basketball player. In spite of not having her, not being able to walk, she actually जब वो I think 13 साल की थी या कब, she fell off from the 3rd floor of her house under construction, और तब से she's not been able to, she's been on a wheelchair, और उससे इतनी परेशानियां, इतने ताने सुनने पड़े, इतने प्रॉब्लम्स झेलने पड़े, और फिर भी उसने हौसला नहीं छोड़ा। शी वाज, इट वाजंट एन इजी जर्नी। ऐसा नहीं है कि वो हमेशा से स्ट्रांग थी और जैसे ही कुछ प्रॉब्लम आई तो भी उसने सारी स्ट्रेंथ दिखाई। I think weaknesses सबके लाइफ में आती है, everybody has weak moments, and she also had suicidal thoughts, she also had depression, she also has self doubt कि मैं ये कर पाऊंगी कि नहीं। But I think जिस तरह से उसने अपनी जिंदगी बदली even after the accident, and how she is now an award-winning basketball player in spite of all of her problems. I think that's been a very very inspiring story for all of us. तो ऐसे बहुत सारी stories है कश्मीर से। I can't remember exactly एक story, but it also led to I'll have to dig it out and maybe share it with you later. But it also led to some sort of policy level discussion, because जिस story को हमने cover किया था उसमें I think the Jammu High Court judge actually referred to that story and said कि because of this they had this change in his judgment. I'll just have to dig that out. I don't remember that story, but this is, I think there have been so many stories, and because to be fair, to be honest, कश्मीर से स्टोरीज इतनी कम आती है कि जो भी आती है हमें बहुत हमारे लिए बहुत मायने रखती है, and we really remember each one of them. I think from most other states we get so many stories that we tend to, they all tend to merge one into the other. But from Kashmir, each story that we read really stands out, from the Bashir story to this, to actually a very recent story. In fact, I think last week, where we covered this teacher, who recently I think was awarded at the national level, and for what? For her unique method of teaching, where she uses household waste to teach her students. So she goes out, she collects all kinds of scrap material like thermocol, plastic bottles and leftover, even like wrappers and all these things she gets from the kachra wala, and then she repurposes all that and uses that to teach her students maths and all that. And not only that, COVID ke time pe she also went out, from online classes. She started going door to door to teach her students. I don't know how the students here have been affected because of the entire pandemic situation, moving to online classes. But I know it's not easy for everyone, right? And she also took that extra effort to make sure that our students don't lose out because of online teaching or all of this pandemic. And she went wearing her mask and social distancing from house to house so that her students can benefit. So she's a recent story that we covered, and she's also a recipient of the, I think, National Teachers Award or something. But these are stories that really, I mean, each story from Kashmir really stands out for us, because it's far, and it's few and far between. So itne stories nahi aate hain, and the number of stories that we would love to cover from Kashmir, actually we don't get access to that. So this is where we're hoping that more students like yours, the scholars over here, will be able to help us become our eyes and ears in Kashmir.
So I'm really happy knowing all these stories about Kashmir. I have read a couple of them. The Basir one I have read myself. I was coming to the question that you actually mentioned. In Kashmir, there is no concept of community engagement, right? In any level, like we do a lot of workshops, हम communities में जाके बच्चों के साथ करते हैं, फिर assignments देते हैं. बहुत बार क्या होता है कि schools के अंदर जो educational system है वो इतना ज़्यादा discouraging है इस मामले में कि जिस चीज़ के लिए grades है ही नहीं वो करना ही नहीं है. Like we are not taught कि community engagement कितना important है, या for that matter community journalism कितना important है. तो मतलब मुझे जैसे हम बात करें, मुझे एक थॉट ये भी आ रहा है कि how we can give them an assignment of कुछ चीज़ों का. मे बी आई थिंक वी हैव सारा ऑल्सो विद अस, जिसमें हम वी कैन गिव दीज, बिकॉज सबसे बेस्ट और ब्यूटीफुल पार्ट ये है हमारे साथ पूरे 10 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स के पेरिफेरल्स के बच्चे हैं, स्कॉलर्स हैं हमारे साथ. सो उनकी जगहों पे आई हैव बीन देयर. मुझे पता है एक एक जगह पे 100 की स्टोरीज है और बहुत एंटीक स्टोरीज है जो दुनिया को जाननी चाहिए अलग अलग तरीकों से. सो मुझे लगता है तो इस सेशन के मे बी फॉलो अप में वी विल डेफिनेटली हैव सम असाइनमेंट, कम्युनिटी लेवल असाइनमेंट. और दूसरा उसमें ये भी मुझे लगता है कि बहुत बार लोगों को कहानी पता होती है बट उनको अप्रोच नहीं पता होता कि इसको पिच कहाँ पे करना है, कैसे करना है. तो मुझे लगता है एक अगर हम एंगेजमेंट की बात करते हैं, बट मैं आपसे गुजारिश करूंगा थोड़ा सा अगर आप पिच करने के बारे में बताएंगे, लाइक हाउ टू अप्रोच अ पर्सन, और कैन वी मेक इट पॉसिबल फॉर देम कि वो डायरेक्टली कैन दे कीप इनका कम्युनिटी कहानियों के लिए द बेटर इंडिया प्लेटफॉर्म अपने लिए एक ऑप्शन. तो किस तरीके से हाउ वुड यू वांट देम टू अप्रोच, जो भी हम आगे जो कोर्स में देखें उनके लिए पोस्ट सेशन. I can't hear you. If you're saying something, आप muted है. You are muted.
Yeah, I wasn't able to unmute myself. Sorry. So yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. क्या होता है हमारी schools में, जो जिसमें grades नहीं मिल रहे या जो भी whatever the schools or teachers deem important, सिर्फ उसी को importance दी जाती है, and you're not encouraged really to go out and do other things, right? But I think I think every student now, I think the kind of competitive world we are living in, सबको ये जानना चाहिए कि अगर आप स्कूल के आगे करिकुलम के आगे अगर आप नहीं कर रहे हैं कुछ एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज जिससे आपका रेज्यूमे बढ़े, जिससे आपको यू आर एबल टू ऐड मोर वेट to your resume, you are going to lose out, right? I think that's the kind of world we are living in, where kids have become, itne sare activities hai, itne sare opportunities hai for all the kids nowadays to do so many different things. I think it's really important that har ek स्टूडेंट जो है वो अपना अपने पढ़ाई के अलावा काफी कुछ कम्युनिटी बिल्डिंग एक्टिविटीज करे, एंड स्पेशली व्हेन यू आर applying for universities in India or abroad, community building, outreach, all of these activities hold a lot of importance. They hold a lot of weightage. So definitely do something that really adds to your or makes your resume stand out from everybody else, right? And I think telling stories, especially telling stories which can generate some impact, can be a very very can be a very fulfilling activity. आप अगर इस तरह के stories लिख सकें जिससे आपके ना तो ना सिर्फ आपके community के बारे में ज़्यादा लोगों को पता चले, और the society around you, there's so much I would say lack of information about Kashmir and the youth there and what people do, like what do you do for in your free time, for instance, or what kind of opportunities do you all have, right? I think itna sara difference hai, I think, between kids who are living in many other parts of the country and kids who are living in Jammu and Kashmir, to also sensitize the rest of the country and the world towards how life in general is there, right? And what kind of things or what kind of stories you come across in your daily lives. I think that itself is a big opportunity. I think यहाँ पे बैंगलोर में अगर कोई बच्चा लिखेगा कि बैंगलोर के schools में क्या हो रहा है या communities में क्या हो रहा है, it's not as interesting as a Kashmiri student writing. So you have that big opportunity actually because of this, lack of information, all of that coming from Kashmir. You actually have a massive opportunity to make use of this time that you have, right? जिसके बारे में आप क्योंकि लोगों को जानना है, लोगों को help करना है. There are millions of Indians who want to help out, people in Kashmir. They want to know the ground situation, what is the truth. There's so many filters after which the news comes out. So I think you being able to tell these stories and reach out to different publications or reach out to different media people, I think using social media and using just getting email IDs and talking to or reaching out to people, I think makes a huge difference. So I think just having that कि आपका आप कौन है, having your identity, building some sort of some small following at least on social media, right? Start following the right kind of people, start posting small things that you see around you, right? You'll start building that following and you'll start building some sort of credibility. आपके ऊपर लोगों को भरोसा होने लगेगा कि आप थोड़े you're serious about this, you intend to do some good work around this, right? So you have to start somewhere, you have to start small, right? But these are great ways for you to build some credibility using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these kind of tools that you have. Start posting small things, start getting noticed, follow the right people, and when the right time comes, you can actually reach out to these people. They'll see in your portfolio कि आपने you have been posting things all along, you are following. Who are you following? आप किस तरह की stories post करते हैं, उससे आपका portfolio बनेगा, and then it'll be much easier for you to actually reach out to someone when the time comes.
Absolutely. So to add to that, I think I strongly believe you should always keep sharing stories. One story will make you, or other story will stop you here, right? So I think I have asked many questions. बहुत सारे अभी scholars के सवाल आ रहे हैं. We have one question from Naila Ahmad. We more focus on stories that are on motivational perspective. So I urge you, please say something about satirical stories, because I believe that satire in a comic way has great influence and impact on our reflection. So how we can write or tell the story with comedy, but at the same time, it will uncover the reality.
That's a great question, Naila. Very interesting as well. I would say, I mean, I have to admit, I'm not an expert on satirical stories, though I agree with you that it's a very good medium, right? It's a very powerful medium when used in the right way. I would say one of the greatest examples of satire in the Indian system has been, movies like Jaane Bhi Do Yaro and all of these movies, where they really, really used the satirical storytelling format to the maximum, impact sort of a thing, impacted, millions of lives. So I think, and also, the sort of comics that we see, they also use satire really, really well, whether it's R.K. Lakshman or Manjul and all of these, comic uh, creators, they also use, and of course you have now stand-up comics who use satire really, really well as well, and they're becoming very popular, they're becoming great pop culture icons. So I think satirical storytelling formats, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether it's using illustrations or comics, or whether you're using the storytelling of film medium, making videos, making a lot of such nice good formats have come out, and actually they can be really, I would say they're very catchy, right? So they sometimes, when they take off, they go really, really far. So if you have that knack, I would definitely say build on it, and all the best to you.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Naila, for that question. So we have another question. ये मुझे प्राइवेटली उन्होंने भेजे. So प्राइवेटली मुझे जितने भी क्वेश्चंस आए, प्लीज आप एवरीवन मोड में भेज दीजिए. So एक क्वेश्चन है, मैम आपने जितना भी बोला बहुत अच्छा था, एंड वी आर हैप्पी टू हैव यू. मेरा सवाल यह है कि मुझे राइटिंग बहुत बोरिंग लगती है. मुझे ज़्यादा स्टेज पे जाने का, एंकरिंग में बहुत मज़ा आता है, और मैं हमेशा ये चीज़ में बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट फील करती हूँ. मैम, मुझे अगर कोई कहानी वर्बली बोलनी होगी, मुझे अपने अंदर क्या क्या तैयारियां अभी से रखनी चाहिए? मैं 10th क्लास में अभी पढ़ती हूँ.
अच्छा, इट्स ग्रेट. आई मीन आजकल कहानियां लिखना और पढ़ना बहुत कम लोगों को पसंद है. So I'm not surprised to see the youth here also. You're a great representation of the new wave, right? So most storytelling is happening in the visual medium, whether it's videos, photographs, stage, a lot of different things. So I think what you really need to do when you're when you're building on the verbal front is of course, the confidence that you need to go up in front of people and be able to deliver your speech or your performance. But in addition to that, I think also you just have one chance, right? In that sense, like when you're telling a story, when people can read, if they miss something, they can go back and read it again. But when you're in a verbal medium, you need to be very articulate. आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो अगर लोगों को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, तो you lose the interest very soon, right? And the whole message will not reach the audience. So I think when you're being on the stage and when you're in front of people, I think the stories you pick, the way you're delivering, are you able to grab the audience attention, and are you able to deliver your message, in the right, आप क्या कौन से words use कर रहे हैं, किस तरह से आप delivery कर रहे हैं, आपका speech, कितना clarity है. You get so many nowadays, you get so many courses and everything for developing your speech, abilities and all of that. So make sure that you invest time in that and be able to tell your stories really well. So yeah, I think it's very interesting, the kind of interest the people, the scholars here have.
Okay, thank you. I hope आपको जवाब मिला अनुराधा मैम से. So there is one more question. So we have lots of questions. I'm just hoping कि हम सारों का जवाब दे पाए. So एक और सवाल है इनका, बिलाल अहमद तांत्रे का. What are the ways to solve social problems, ma'am?
Okay, so social problems, Bilal, you can solve in so many different ways, right? One is, of course, you yourself being involved in the community. आप जाके जिस तरह से उमर सर आपके साथ काम करते हैं, आप दूसरों के साथ काम कीजिए. You do whatever you can, right? You whatever skills you have, you pass on to others. Whatever in whatever ways you can help out people, right? Even small things like starting bank accounts for people who are not financially included. छोटे छोटे जो आप काम कर सकते हैं, in your society, in your community, even spending time with the elderly or spending time with small kids, taking care of small kids while their parents are going out to work. There are so many different things that you can just do, being in and around your home. So that's of course the first level of involvement. But apart from that, I mean, when you want to tackle social problems, there are so many different approaches, right? The typical approach that media takes, for instance, is a top-down approach. कि हम लिखेंगे किसी के बारे में, will create a lot of anger, rage against establishment, against government. ये नहीं हो रहा है, वो नहीं हो रहा, आपका एमएलए क्या कर रहा है, आपका एमपी क्या कर रहा है, आपका गवर्नमेंट क्या कर रहा है, सीएम क्या कर रहा है, get resignations from people, and hopefully change will happen. That's a typical way of functioning of media. What we took up is a bottoms up approach, where we said we want to empower every person, every citizen with the right tools and the right awareness and the right resources to go out and make a change. तो जब आप वो करते, जब आप लोगों को बताते हैं कि कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है, around you, when you inspire people or when you inform people कि this is a solution, this is what somebody is doing, how are they doing it, what are they doing, how are they solving poverty in this area, or how are they solving illiteracy in this place, you're giving ideas to millions of other people who can then do something similar in their communities, in their neighborhoods, in the lives around them. So that's another way. That's the approach that we have taken to solving social problems, right? It's not about telling you what the problems are, but it's about telling you what the solutions are, and then inspiring so many more, thousands of people to also do something similar like this, so that problems get solved, in different parts of the country. Similar problems are same everywhere, right? It's the approaches that are different. And when we talk about new approaches, more and more people adopt them, and more problems get solved. So that's another way of solving problems. These are just two approaches out of thousands of approaches to solve social problems.
Wonderful. एक सवाल है जो क्विकली मुझे लगता है आप जवाब देना चाहेंगे. सो फाइका ने सवाल पूछा है, मैम जब आप हमारी एज के थे आप तब क्या बनना चाहते? मैं जब बड़ी हो रही थी, मैं एक टाइम पे पायलट बनना चाहती, फिर सिंगर, फिर उसके बाद अभी डॉक्टर बनना चाहती हूँ. अब आगे नहीं पता क्या बनना चाहूंगी. तो आप जब हमारी एज में थे आप क्या बनना चाहते थे? आपके थॉट्स कैसे थे उस टाइम पे? आई थिंक बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है.
क्या नाम बताया?
फाइका.
फाइका.
फाइका, यस.
फाइका, अच्छा. तो फाइका, आई थिंक ये मीडिया जर्नलिस्ट के अलावा मैं सब कुछ बनना चाहती थी. So you just don't know कि आप फाइनली आप क्या बनेंगे, आपको क्या बनना है, पूरी लाइफ आप क्या क्या सोचेंगे और फाइनली आप क्या करेंगे, ये शायद कोई नहीं बता सकता. तो आई थिंक आई वांटेड टू बी एन एस्ट्रोनॉट, I wanted to be an architect. I even studied civil engineering for that. I wanted to do so many different things, but never thought of being a journalist or being in the journalism field. I wouldn't say I'm a journalist, but being in the media space, or running my own company in the impact space is something I never imagined. So it's important to dream. So keep dreaming, but don't get tied down to your dreams. Don't believe that agar wo nahi hua to aisa nahi hai ki it's the end of the world. You'll always find something else that you never imagined, but you might just turn out to be much better at that, or you might start loving that a lot more than you ever thought.
I hope फाइव का जवाब मिल गया आपको. एक और सवाल है, बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन है ये. नासिर ने पूछा है, मैम आई हैव ऑलवेज लव्ड स्टोरी टेलिंग मैं अपने दोस्तों को भी स्टोरीज बोलता था, बट वो बोलते थे आप बहुत ज्यादा टाइम खाते हो, जल्दी जल्दी बताओ। तो इनफैक्ट मेरे पेरेंट्स भी बहुत मुझे डिस्करेज करते हैं, क्योंकि वो जब भी मैं उनको कुछ बोलना चाहता हूँ अपने पड़ोसी के बारे में, किसी और के बारे में, तो वो मुझे बोलते हैं आप पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दो, इन चीजों से दूर रहो। तो अब इस सिचुएशन में मैम अपने पेरेंट्स को कैसे, क्योंकि जैसा इन्होंने मेरे पे वैसे सवाल किया, जैसा उमर सर ने बोला कि स्कूल सिस्टम में डिस्करेजमेंट मिलती है, बट हमें घर में ही डिस्करेजमेंट मिलती है। हम अपने पेरेंट्स को कैसे इस चीज की ओर ले जाएं ताकि वो हमें सपोर्ट करे कि इन स्टोरी से कितना फायदा हो सकता है अगर सही वे में बताई जाए। नासिर का सवाल है।
अच्छा नासिर, पहली बात तो आपको लॉन्ग फॉर्म राइटिंग में जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि आप बोल रहे हैं आपको बहुत टाइम लगता है टू कम टेल द स्टोरी. आई थिंक लॉन्ग फॉर्म जर्नलिज्म इज परफेक्ट फॉर यू, एंड देयर इज अ बिग ऑडियंस फॉर दैट आल्सो. इट्स नॉट डेड. In fact, people love reading long stories. There is a certain section of society which loves reading long stories. तो एक तो आपको वो कंसिडर करना चाहिए. दूसरा, don't be discouraged when your own family doesn't support your dreams, because that's a very common thing. Like हमारे to be honest हमारे साथ भी यही हुआ. It wasn't like when we said कि हमें Better India, when we started it on the side, ठीक है, nobody was bothered. But when we wanted to do this full time, we got so much resistance from our own family, right? Because everybody was like ये क्या लोग तुम लोग MBA पढ़ के और इतना सब करके और तुम्हारी इतनी अच्छी जॉब है और सब कुछ है, और वो सब छोड़ छाड़ के तुम्हें ये सोशल सर्विस करना है, और वो भी इस एज में. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि तुम 60 साल के हो गए अब जाके कुछ भी करो, ठीक है, तुम्हें 30 साल में तुम्हें सोशल सर्विस करना है, तुम लोग का दिमाग खराब हो गया होगा. So it's really it's not uncommon. हमारे माँ बाप हमारा भला चाहते हैं. The only difference is that they don't know for a fact, right, what is good, what is going to work for us and what is not going to work for us. So it's very natural for them to resist change. I think most human beings are very scared of change, right? And especially when it comes to your own children, you want them to be in very well settled jobs, very known path कि हाँ यहाँ पे इस तरह आप तुम मतलब डॉक्टर बनोगे या इंजीनियर बनोगे, या तो इतनी सैलरी गारंटीड है, एटलीस्ट लाइफ बन जाएगी, पता है, दिस इज द पाथ दे नो. बट अगर तुम्हें कुछ अलग करना है, तो ये बच्चा बड़ा होके क्या बनेगा, क्या कहाँ से पैसे आएंगे, these are natural worries for our parents, right? So I don't think you should be too hassled about that. वो होने वाला है, you will face that sort of resistance. But I think the only way to do it, like what we also did was, still say, you have to try and convince them, and also start doing things on the side. So in addition to what they want you to do or the path you're already in, start experimenting with different things on the side and then see if it becomes successful. Don't leave everything and go down a path where there is more there's less certainty, right? I think start doing experiments on the side and see what results, and then you can always go back and at least you have something concrete to go back to your parents and show them कि मैंने ये किया और अच्छा result आया, now can I pursue that a little more, so go back with more evidence.
Wonderful. So Kuratul ने सवाल पूछा, where can I find publications on storytelling projects implemented in basic education?
What exactly do you mean, Kurat or Omar? Storytelling projects implemented in basic education in the sense?
So basically जो स्टोरी जो मैं समझ पा रहा हूँ कुरत के सवाल से, वो ये है कि स्टोरी टेलिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स, जैसे अभी हम कम्युनिटी स्टोरी टेलिंग की बात कर रहे थे, तो ये उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात कर रहे हैं कि हम एजुकेशन सिस्टम में हम कैसे अप्रोच कर सकते हैं स्टोरी टेलिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स को. सो इनका वो सवाल है जो मैं समझ पा रहा हूँ.
अच्छा, एक्चुअली मुझे इतना ख्याल नहीं है इस बारे में. आई थिंक we can probably try to find out about this and tell you, but off the cuff I don't know any such projects. I do know actually yeah, just hold on 1 minute. I think Pratham books, they have this whole storytelling. In fact, they have they have a platform called Story Weaver, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, 100% sure about the name, but I think they have a platform called Story Weaver where they also, enable storytelling in basic education. Having from kindergarten, I think, up to higher level, higher grades, and they enable people to also read out the stories and record them and all that. So Pratham Books or Pratham, the NGO is an education based storytelling platform. You should check it out.
Yeah, in fact, I think that the platform that you were talking about comes under Acer, जो sister wing है प्रथम की. I think जो storytelling का उन्होंने रखा है. And I should also say that जो educational setup में वो experiments करते हैं, वो उन्हीं storytelling के modules को use करते हैं. So it is really interesting. So apart from that, so we have a question from Shahnaza Rasool. How we will promote positive social change by storytelling? I think you have already responded, but would you like to add to what you already said in response to this question?
I think, most of the, our conversation was around that. So I think just talking about stories that you come across. Start small, start talking about single person that you come across. You can use any medium, whether you want to use even, visual mediums like photography or video storytelling and things like that. But make sure that you're talking about, either you're trying to help someone directly. That's one way of bringing social change, right? Talk about one way, like that officer used to raise funds for the the poor person, was to talk about his state, right, and share it. So that's one way that he used his the power of his words and the power of the internet, social media, and everything, to bring about change in someone's life. The other way is to talk about positive initiatives that someone is taking, right? And then when you talk about either an inspiring person or an inspiring organization, initiative, something, then a lot more people learn about it, and they also try to replicate that in their neighborhood. तो वो जब हम किसी अच्छाई के बारे में जानते हैं, तो बहुत सारे लोग उस चीज को उस तरह से करना चाहते हैं. They want to copy that, they want to do something similar. So that way again you create a lot of social change by telling stories. So just telling inspiring stories or telling stories where you're able to make a difference in someone's life, just by using your words. You can put out the talk about the state of people and how people can actually help. Don't leave it at the state ki हाँ मतलब ये खराब है, but let's lead with ये problem है, पर इस तरह से हम solve कर सकते हैं, या इस तरह से आप मदद कर सकते हैं. And when you do that is when you'll actually create change, not just by telling people कि ये problem है, problem सुन के, it doesn't lead to a lot of change.
Absolutely. So basically एक सवाल जो मेरे दिमाग में अभी आ रहा है, जो quickly मैं पूछना चाहूँ, because I know we are approaching our end time. So वो ये था कि हम आप थोड़ा सा अगर इस पे इनको गाइड करें कि हम फिल्टर कैसे कर सकते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन को, किसी भी तरह की कहानी को आगे ले जाने से, क्योंकि कम्युनिटीज के अंदर बहुत बार क्या होता है कि we outrage modesty of people by sharing stories which has no right source, like जैसे WhatsApp groups में forward करके हम उनमें कैसे how can we filter out, what is the easy way to filter out and then disseminate, or if at all stop dissemination of information उस context में, ताकि सबको आइडिया आ जाए. क्योंकि व्हाट्सएप सब यूज करते हैं, इंस्टाग्राम यूज करते हैं, ट्विटर तो खैर कम ही यूज करते हैं, बट इन प्लेटफॉर्म्स का बहुत यूज करते हैं, फेसबुक फॉर दैट मैटर. तो इसमें किस तरीके से ये किसी भी प्रकार की किसी भी तरीके की इंफॉर्मेशन को फिल्टर कर सकते हैं, उसके बाद शेयर कर सकते हैं, या रोक सकते हैं खुद को फिल्टर करने से, क्योंकि जितना वो उसको रोकेंगे उतना किसी की लाइफ प्रिजर्व हो जाएगी, प्रोटेक्ट हो जाएगी, सेफ गार्ड हो जाएगी. तो उस पर प्लीज थोड़ा सा.
हाँ, thank you, Omar. I think that's a very important question. इतना ज़्यादा fake news वगैरह अभी people I think especially WhatsApp पे WhatsApp की जब बारी आती है, then we know there's so much misinformation spread everywhere that it's very very important that we don't become part of this sharing network where we also play a role in spreading fake information out there. So I think दो एक दो चीज तो हमारे लिए at least at the Better India we have the ground rules about not believing anything that people share about in politics and in religion. I think if these two major topics are avoided at all at all cost, because these are the two major planks that people use to spread misinformation, and these are the two major areas where people tend to believe or tend to get polarized, right? अगर आप इसके बारे and these are the places where people have the maximum agenda also, right? So I think for us this has been the most important part of spreading misinformation. Matlab, just when you, especially if anything comes from a person in politics, about a person in politics or about any sort of religion में ये हुआ, मंदिर का या मस्जिद का ये हुआ, I think we have to really really stop ourselves right there. And one, just stop believing. मतलब पहले तो विश्वास नहीं करें क्योंकि 99.9% there will be an agenda behind it. Then secondly, at least try, before spreading anything, try your best to find out. Go to the source of the information, right? Now you have, you can get contact information of people very easily. Whether you're using Google, whether you're using social media, Facebook pay, Twitter pay, you get contact information also easily, right? Try to find out, whether what you're hearing, or try to reach out to people and find out, आप उस area से लोगों से बात कर सकते हैं, somebody there. You can search even on Twitter and all if you see something like this, and also try to follow sources which do fact checking for you. There are a few online like alt news, like even I think India Today, some of them have Indian Express or something, some of them have dedicated sections for fact checking. So please also try to follow those. But first and foremost, do not believe anything that comes to you about politics and religion. Please be wary. You're being used as puppets, right? We are all being used as puppets to float other people's agenda. And when we are sharing and resharing all of this, these forwards that we get and all of this information that we get, we are really creating a lot of, we're doing a lot of disservice to the society. So I think those are ground rules for us, Omar. We have really believed that, we don't want the conversation, the narrative in the country to get hijacked by these topics. So at the Better India, we stay away from these completely, unless we can do some good. Like for instance, religion, we only touch when we can promote religious harmony. When we talk about some, people helping each other out and things like that, that's the only time we talk about anything religious, otherwise we don't, right? Even if they're doing social service, but they are attached to a religious or spiritual organization, we do not, talk about it. So these are the things that we try to be very careful about. And I think everybody here should also try to understand that there are a lot of hidden agenda that they can't ever know very well. It's just best to not be part of this whole sharing sort of ecosystem.
Exactly. I think बहुत important था इस चीज पे बात करना. हमारे पास बहुत सारे सवाल हैं, but at the same time बहुत कम है. But to be very honest, वो एक बार होता है बोलना, but I know personally how busy you are as a person, and taking out time for this session बहुत बहुत बड़ी बात है. And I mean, it has been informative. We got to learn. It has been inspiring at the same time, and encouraging for a lot of scholars, because I know a lot of them really want to get into this, media line. Not exactly media, but they want to be writers in future. तो उसमें आप एक बड़ा मिसाल है उनके सामने. सो स्कॉलर्स बिफोर वी मूव ऑन, अगर कोई अभी भी सवाल है, हमारे पास बहुत सारे हैं, बट मुझे लगता है उसमें से बहुत सारों के जवाब ऑलरेडी दिए गए. बट अगर कुछ सवाल है और आपको सेशन कैसा लगा अनुराधा मैम के साथ, वो चैट बॉक्स से भी पढ़ रही है, आप सब उनको बता सकते हैं आपको कैसा लगा उनके साथ सेशन. बट जैसे आप ये लिखेंगे, हम ओके, इंशा हफीज का सवाल है, मैम व्हाट वाज द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज यू were facing firstly and how you try to solve the same challenge?
Yeah, Insha, sure. I think one of the biggest challenges for us was, changing the mindset, right? Whether it was starting from, media people itself. हमने कितने लोगों से बात की, we spoke to even editors of major newspapers and publications, and everybody had the same mindset कि positive news कोई नहीं पढ़ता है, that's the reason why we don't publish it. Right, to people that we spoke to, even our friends and family, everybody was very very apprehensive कि ये कोई पढ़ेगा नहीं. And the other most important thing is, there's no money to be made in good businesses. You have to be, there's a reason why nobody in the media space has been doing positive news, क्योंकि बिकता नहीं है. That was the biggest mindset challenge that we faced. And I think हमारे लिए it was very important कि we break that sort of mindset. We show that it's possible to create a sustainable business model, even while the intent is good. Even with an impact based company, you can actually do something. You can actually create a business model, and that's the way we went about it, where we changed, where we did not do anything the conventional way. जो भी हमने किया, I think बहुत हटके किया, बहुत अलग तरह से किया. Even the way we decided to set up our revenue model is very different from a conventional media company, where we avoid doing advertisements for brands, for companies and all that. We don't touch a lot of companies. We leave money on the table, but we don't cover a lot of companies like liquor companies or tobacco companies and all of that. So we have a lot of ideals, I would say, that we stand by. So it's definitely been challenging that way. A lot of times we've had to walk away with from money on the table because we said it does not fall in line with our principles, and a lot of times we've had to face or fight self-doubt itself, right? कि ये business grow होगा कि नहीं होगा? Are we going down the wrong path? Are we ever going to be able to make this a viable business model? Will we ever attract any investment in our company? All these things. So it's very very difficult times for an entrepreneur at many stages. I won't say that the road is easy, but I think if you have strong principles, if you believe in something very strongly कि ये करना है, I think it's important for to do this, and probably you're the only person who's determined enough to do it. I think you should, and eventually things will resolve. It's not like success is not defined by how much money you make at the end of the day, or how all of the conventional ways you think about it, but really how satisfied do you feel at the end of the day? Do you sleep well with what you have done? Do you feel that you've made a difference? Does your life matter? I think these are questions that define success a lot more than how much money you've made, or how do people look at you, what status do you have in society, and all of the other ways we look at it. So yeah, thank you for asking me that question. I think these are some of the challenges that we faced, and we definitely continue to face, but it's still nonetheless it's been a very fulfilling journey as well.
Absolutely. So there are two things in the conclusion. One is I would request you to have a look at the chat box because I don't want you to miss out some of them as much
I'm
as
just
you can
seeing
read
this.
all the
There's such an
messages.
amazing team of scholars. Omar is so. First of all, I've really enjoyed the second part of the session the most, where the scholars were asking me questions because they were really, really insightful and very different kind of questions. So I think I had more fun answering their questions. They asked me such unique questions around satirical stories to challenges and all of that. So I think you have such an amazing set of students here. I can see how much you must be inspiring them and how nice it must be working with them.
No, I think you have been inspiring for them today, and for all of us, really. So I actually had this thought while we were talking about the session. So I was thinking, keeping in mind your busy schedule, of course, right? Somebody from the team, if you can just help us with some kind of questionnaire or maybe some kind of document where we can create a community engagement exercise for them, and which will be monitored from Kashmir, and then it will be a one person coordinating. We won't keep multiple people coordinating, just save a lot of time and work with them very deeply. So my idea around that revolves in a way कि हम बहुत सारी कहानियां जो नहीं बोली जाती है, हम अगर ये प्रोजेक्ट करते हैं, इससे एक तो एनकरेजमेंट उनको मिलेगा और उनको आइडिया आ जाएगा हम कैसे पिच कर सकते हैं. तो इट इज जस्ट अ मेंटोर प्रोसेस ऑफ हेल्पिंग देम आउट फॉर द फर्स्ट स्टोरी, देन दे विल कंटिन्यू डूइंग इट आफ्टरवर्ड्स. तो उसमें से आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट कि अगर उसमें से थोड़ा सा गाइडेंस मिल जाए, but of course, like, we will definitely not be demanding a lot of time, but thank you so much for today. बहुत बहुत मजा आया, and of course आपके बहुत milestones है आगे जाने के लिए. मुझे पर्सनली मैसेजेस कुछ आई है, सर कैन वी हैव अनदर सेशन विद मैम, I'll join late. Okay, so there is one more. Okay, okay. Anif ने लिखा है, मैम, when will we have second session with you? I wanted to have a question verbally with you, but not this time, next time. So there is one more person. Ma'am, your story is very inspiring. I'm watching with my dad. मतलब शायद ये एक जगह पे डैड और ये साथ में सेशन देख रहे हैं अभी. So there is one more. So there are many scholars who are requesting to have one more session. So scholars, for that I think we have to check with a ma'am's schedule जब इनके पास टाइम होगा, बट वी विल डेफिनेटली रिक्वेस्ट, नॉट मे बी नियर फ्यूचर में, बट थोड़ा सा एक महीने का गैप देके जब इनके पास फिर से टाइम होगा. और हम जो मैम से अभी बात कर रहे हैं वो इसी बात पे है कि हम कैसे आपको एंगेज करें, उनको पर्सनली आपके बारे में जानने का मौका मिलेगा जब आप स्टोरीज अच्छी अच्छी लाएंगे. तो थोड़ा सा हम इनसे गाइडेंस लेंगे हम कैसे मूव फॉरवर्ड करें. हम एक कम्युनिटी प्रोजेक्ट करेंगे इनके साथ जिसमें हम इनसे रिक्वेस्ट करें थोड़ा सा हमें आइडिया दे, ताकि हम फिर यहाँ पे मैं आपको गाइड करूँ या हम यहाँ पे वॉलंटियर्स के थ्रू एग्जीक्यूट करें. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टुडे. बट बिफोर वी रैप अप आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू टू से मे बी कुछ भी जो बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस सेशन आप बोलना चाहेंगे स्कॉलर्स के लिए, समथिंग दैट यू वांट देम, कुछ भी, एनी कपल ऑफ लाइंस.
नहीं, एब्सोल्युटली. आई थिंक जो मैंने थोड़ा सा छेड़ा पहले कि आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एवरीबडी टू नॉट स्पेशली आई थिंक इतना सब चेंज होता है हमारी लाइफ में कि एक ही ड्रीम को लेके बैठना और उसके ऊपर अगर कुछ नहीं हुआ, इफ our lives never go according to plan. I think that's one ground rule. If your life goes exactly according to what you planned, then आप या तो बहुत ही लकी है या फिर बहुत ही बोरिंग है, क्योंकि आपने मतलब किस तरह से अपना पूरा लाइफ पहले से तय कर लिया. I don't know, but there will always be changes, there will always be things that go wrong or right, but just have patience, because like I said, things that seem to go wrong now might be things that go right in the long run. So आपको आपकी जिंदगी किस डगर में ले जाएगी, किस डायरेक्शन में ले जाएगी, आप उसके बारे में चिंता मत कीजिए, but just approach things with passion, and do whatever you're taking up, do it with a lot of interest and a lot of sincerity. I think work ethics is something that I find lacking a lot of times in this world, right? And I think if we just develop, in my own company, I can give you examples of so many people who just because they come with the right work ethics, they come from many different areas. In fact, if you see in our company, most of the journalists are not journalists; they are not from media background. They are engineers, they are lawyers, they are एक रॉकेट साइंटिस्ट है, मतलब कुछ भी अलग अलग पढ़ के, but they've become writers and journalists in the end, and the way to, and the reason why they are here and they have moved in the last 5-6 years with us. They have become deputy editors, they have started their own sections. Everybody's doing different things now in our own company, but it's just the people who show really good work ethics, who are able to move forward in life no matter what they choose to do, no matter where life takes them. So you guys, you people, all of you guys and girls, you're at this place in your life where you can choose to play it easy. जो जिस तरह से आपको काम मिले, आपको बस करके निकलना है. You can choose to do that, or you can really choose to invest a lot more time and effort and sincerity into everything that you're given. And if you do the second thing, you will be surprised at what life will hold for you. The way you're going to rise in whatever job or whatever work you take up, whatever, whether you want to be entrepreneurs, whether you want to be professionals, whether you want to be working somewhere, you have your dream jobs, wherever it is, you will really be surprised at how fast you will grow in any field that you choose to do, if only you go beyond what is the minimum expected from you. ऐसा मत कीजिए कि आपको जो दिया गया है काम वो आप खत्म करके निकल गए. That's not going to take you far as compared to you taking that extra effort, you taking, going that extra mile to deliver that delight, to everyone, whether it's your customers, whether it's whether it's your employers, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your parents. Just go that extra mile and give that extra smile. You'll see how far it takes you.
Yeah, so I think those are really golden words coming from you. Scholars who need to just remember what Anuradha ma'am just said. Thank you so much for today. But बहुत सारी चीजें learning है.